It's interesting what's going on now, because a lot of times when you have an issue, you don't know what the answer is. You just know that something's got to get solved. But in this case, we have an answer. The answers are there.
Unfortunately, it's probably a generation at a time because it's really hard to change. It takes the next generation.
What are the biggest hurdles or issues facing farmers in Wisconsin right now?
We always have to do more with less.
Farmers working harder than ever, taking on bigger risks than ever, going backwards and wondering what is wrong with this equation.
Don't farm with nature what you're doing, you're farming against nature, and farming against something just never works out.
The farmers need to know there's an alternative, and regenerative agriculture is the solution. We just have to get the word out too.
I mean, it's not a one story that fits everything. Everybody's farm is individual, so you got to find out what works on your farm.
But can we all get there? And I think we can.
I'm Ron Bula, farmer, West Baraboo. And I'm on the SWWIG, Sauk Soil and Water Improvement Group. There is kind of resignation right now. You know, they don't know what to do because they're feeling like deer in the headlights. Farmers working harder than ever, taking on bigger risks than ever, going backwards and wondering what is wrong with this equation. But the profit margins have been just so tight or non-existent in those commodities. So we need to start looking at how do we rebuild the soil. We have 60 years left of soil, and then it's done. You know, can help the soil biota bring up all the natural nutrients in the soil, so you don't have to purchase nearly as many inputs.
Like what it is, it's actually a living mat down there that'll work for you if you treat it right and treat it like soil, I guess, instead of dirt. It really works for you. And I haven't added any fertilizer now since 17. I'm Roman Miller. We own and operate a grass-fed beef farm here. We switched to go from row crops to grass-fed beef in 2017. I was just kind of tired of the stress of the row crops. I guess I was kind of wondering what I was going after in 10 years. Where would I want to be? And in 2017, the NRCS, we got a whole NRCS, and they came out and set me up with the grazing, and we've been doing that since, and we've seen a big difference in water infiltration. You get a big rain now, and it seems to not affect us where you used to get gullies, and you get a lot of runoff with really dark water. Now it's all clear when it does run off, so that's a huge. You're actually saving the water on your property.
Somebody comes up to you and says, "That's fine, Danny, it works for you, but that wouldn't work for me," or it just doesn't work here. What would you say?
It probably won't, because it's in your head. It's between your ears.
I'd say you're wrong. I'm making it work, and I can show you what I have going on and everything, because I've been running the NUE trials the past couple of years. I can grow 170 bushel corn on nothing but starter fertilizer after my cover crops. Marjorie Bindle, and I operate RB Farms. I have 225 acres, no-till. I have dairy replacement heifers and corn, beans, alfalfa, winter wheat, and cover crops. And my plan is for this year is to have everything covered with cover crops before the snow flies.
What are the biggest challenges you feel that farmers face getting into stuff like this?
The biggest thing is probably fear. They don't want to make that change, and because if they do something and it doesn't work out the way they want it that first time, they'll just give up on it, and that's not the way to look at it.
You got involved with the watershed group here very early on. Why do you keep working with the watershed group?
It was what I was doing before, so if I can help somebody else get into no-till or start using cover crops, that's the name of the game.
So the local watershed SWWIG is trying to get the public more knowledge of what's happening on the farms locally with conservation and all the great things that us farmers are doing locally to try to preserve our nutrient runoff and create wildlife habitat with border edges around the fields and stuff like that. So I'm Darren Yaki with SWWIG Farms. I farm here with my dad and my brother, and I'm the 4th generation farmer here. We grow row crops, the corn, soybeans, winter wheat, and we also have some alfalfa. We run around 300 acres of a perennial pasture to graze our Holstein heifers on that we custom raise, along with some grass-fed beef cows. We've cut back on pretty well all commercial P and K. We're having better productive soils, better water retention. We can graze longer throughout the year. We can get our equipment out in the field sooner in spring, and if it's wetter in the fall, we can get out in the field and harvest even if it's a little wetter out and still carry the equipment across the field.
See on your logo, it says farming with nature. Why do you pick that as your kind of like your business slogan?
Well, if you don't farm with nature, what you're doing, you're farming against nature, and farming against something just never works out. So if you can farm with something, it just makes everything flow better. You need the bugs and insects along the edges of the fields to pollinate your crops and stuff like that. So you gotta work one with nature. The benefits are here, and whether you're in a drier climate or a wetter climate, you can make this system work, in my opinion.
Farmers need to figure out ways that they can rely more on natural processes instead of buying all their inputs.
I think that eventually the light's gonna come on, and they're gonna start seeing that if there's other producers that can show them what they can do with it, they might actually jump on board and try it themselves.
Some of these things that are on the shelf, we know we got technology that wasn't available 40 years ago as far as no-till technology. We understand the processes of how cover crops. This is an opportunity to help the world, help their pocketbooks, and help our communities overall.
My land owners that I rent from, they appreciate it too.
And we're just seeing the benefits from it, and that's why we keep doing it.
I'd like to find the back of the check instead of the front of the check. Would be a nice way to go. You do a lot more of that than you did conventional farming.
All these things, we know what to do. We just have to have the willpower to change.
So I'm hoping that eventually that, we can just keep growing and make a difference.
Okay, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Yep.
My land owners that I rent from, they appreciate it too.